because the previous video wasn't quite titled right, and I want these kinds of videos to be individual. So I think a lot of us bitch and complain or like or and support or a wide range of emotions that has to do with the World Health Organization. But I wanted to know what the official take is on the World Health Organization, the WHO. I don't like going to conspiracy pages and reading what white guys with bald heads and beards have to say, fat guys. I want to find out, I want to know what they want us to know. So I put WHO, World Health Organization, into the Google machine, and I go down to Wikipedia, right? Because I know a lot of people have this negative perception on Wikipedia. Did you see these up here? I put those up there because you had them too low. I know. I just didn't know if you saw it up there. You were asking for a cow. You were asking for a cow. Yeah. But I hear idiots, really. I hear idiots talking about things all the time. And it's usually idiots fueling idiots, fueling idiots, fueling idiots, because like none of them have done this. Oh, and like I said, the whole idea of Wikipedia isn't something that everybody can just edit how they want to. There are official pages like this page, like the World Health Organization page, that is like specifically controlled because this is what they want us to know, and they don't want someone like me coming on there and fucking with shit. So, if you get, if you have meet the certain requirements, and then you get invited, or your invitation gets accepted to, let's see. This article is written in British English with Oxford spelling. Okay. Edit without logging in. I can actually edit this, I think.
First rails that we have seen down in Paris for Carl Cook. Unfortunately, two of them. He will finish. He'll finish with 8 faults, and we will see no American on the podium in Paris. And Carl is upset with himself very much. These 8 people plays back for just its second World at the Olympics after being introduced in the 2020 Games in Tokyo. Sport climbing has become immensely popular in a very short period of time. In just 20 years or so, the sport has grown to 25 million climbers in 150 different countries. If you've never seen it, be prepared to watch the athletes go up a 50-foot wall in about 6 seconds. Brought to you by Wallside Windows, celebrating 80 years as Michigan's replacement window leader.
Sorry, guys. I didn't know I could do this. I was talking all this shit, and I was wrong. This makes it even weirder that I was...
I became a nurse to make lives better. Today, that's hard to do because of the open border. I've seen firsthand the damage that Kamala Harris caused in our country.
We're just gonna keep showing this same dumbass commercial. Illegal immigrants are overwhelming the hospitals. Anybody show me a fucking a piece of proof of that? I know every time I ever worked with Mexicans and shit, if they got hurt, the last thing ICE and or the police them arrested immediately. It's dumb. It's a dumb thing. Error. Editor did not publish. This IP address range has been globally blocked. What does that mean?
We are in the Detroit area, so maybe that's.
Most people who see this message have done nothing wrong. Some kinds of blocks restrict editing from specific service providers or telecom companies in response to recent abuse or vandalism, and can sometimes affect other users who are unrelated to that abuse. Review the information below for assistance if you do not believe that you have done anything wrong. This block affects editing on all Wikipedia wikis. The IP address or range
They don't like you.
due to abuse from this IP range, anonymous logged out editing has been temporarily blocked. Please refer to the guide for assistance. This block will expire on at 4:39 on January 15th, 2026. Did she just fall off? Yeah. Ah, that's awesome.
How the fuck did that happen?
Horse was like, nigga, you think people are the only ones trying to fucking revolt right now? Animals feel it too.
Oh my god, he's so embarrassed.
He should be.
He's so embarrassed right now.
You stupid fucking horse.
What a dramatic turn of events.
He's like, I gotta go be nice to my horse or else.
Lost his entire bridle. Now a dejected
Horse doesn't like him.
back to the barn.
Show us it again. What the fuck? You're not gonna show us again? That's the best thing that happened. That's why we watched. It's like the car crash in auto racing. Wow. So, I was about to have to eat a whole bunch of crow, right? Because I was like, holy shit, I guess I can edit this. Like, I was really surprised because when I went to the Wikipedia page for the Israel-Hamas War 2023, and this was still back in 2023, when I clicked on edit, it was immediately like, nah, you can't edit this shit. You got to be a part of this group and that group, and we got to approve you, and then we got to, it was like there was a multitude of things that had to be, I had to comply with in order to be allowed to edit this precious page. So I was expecting that with, I mean, this is the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization has a page that that would allow people to edit it. How dangerous would that be? Like, that's just irresponsible. That's a terrible thing. If you're supposed to be the authority on health, I don't want some jackass to be able to come through and edit things. I want to be able to go to that page if I'm ever curious about health things and know that this is going to be the official shit. So I was really surprised that I was able to put the edit in, but then, I didn't have 100% faith. I wouldn't have had 100% faith until I clicked it and I saw it there. So I knew there was still a chance something could happen, but that my IP address range is globally blocked, whatever the fuck that means.
Well, I mean, Dade County is blocked from doing all kinds of different things, so it's probably because, like you said, right, part of the Detroit area. Detroit's not.
Yeah, I can't imagine anybody can edit this. I don't think there's going to be an acceptable range. Even while globally blocked, you will usually still be able to edit pages on MetaWiki. If you believe you have been blocked by mistake, you can find additional information and instructions in the No Open Proxies global policy. Otherwise, to discuss the block, please post a request for review on MetaWiki. Basically, we don't give a fuck. Go to the complaints department. You could also send an email to the stewards, VRT, at stewards@wiki.org. All right. So, the World Health Organization, WHO, is a specialized agency of the United Nations responsible for international public health. It's headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland, where the Rothschilds live, and has 6 regional offices and 150 field offices worldwide. The WHO was established on April 7th, 1948. Gosh, that's like a month before the Nakba. Literally. Or no, is that it? Are we a year into it? 48 was the year that... Just hear phone for just a second. Yeah, Nakba, 1948. All right. Nakba is the catastrophe, is the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians through their violent displacement, disassociation of land, property, and belongings, along with the destruction of their society and suppression of their culture, identity, political rights, and national aspirations. The term is used to describe the events of the 1948 Palestine War in Mandatory Palestine, as well as the ongoing persecution and displacement of Palestinians by Israel. As a whole, it covers the fracturing of Palestinian society and the long-running rejection of the right to return for Palestinian refugees and their descendants. During the foundational events of the Nakba in 48, approximately half of Palestine's predominantly Arab population, around 750,000 people, were expelled from their homes or made to flee through various violent means, at first by Zionist paramilitaries and after the establishment of the State of Israel by its military. Does that even make sense to you? So prior to Israel officially existing, they were Zionist paramilitaries. From where? We don't know.
Zion.
You would think there would have to be a lot of people to be able to do that to a lot of people. You know, that's a lot of people to be able to bully. And the only way you're going to do that is if you have more force than they can respond with. And to think like Israel didn't exist. So who were these paramilitaries? And then all these paramilitaries were just, Israel was established and they were like, all right, now we have a military. Dozens of massacres targeted Palestinian Arabs and over 500 Arab majority towns, villages, and urban neighborhoods were depopulated. That's a nice way to put it. With many of these being either completely destroyed or repopulated by Jews and given new Hebrew names. By the end of the war, 78% of the total land area of the former mandatory Palestine was controlled by Israel. The Palestinian national narrative views the Nakba as a collective trauma that defines their national identity and political aspirations. The Israeli national narrative views the Nakba as a component of the War of Independence that established Israel's statehood and sovereignty, whilst negating or denying the atrocities committed, claiming that many of the expelled Palestinians left willingly. They just left. The Israelis came and they were like, hey, we want this land that's been your family land for generations and all that stuff. Can you leave? And the Palestinians were like, dude, you know what? We have nowhere to go. We don't have very much. But fuck yeah, we'll leave. That sounds good.
Where are we supposed to go?
They didn't ask that. Do you understand? That's Israel's thing. None of the things that are said by the Palestinians are true. All those stories of the atrocities and shit, that's just not true. A lot of them left on their own. They willingly gave up the land because we're God's chosen people. Claiming that many left willingly or their expulsion was necessary and unavoidable. Nakba denial has been increasingly challenged since the 1970s in Israeli society, particularly by the new historians, although the official narrative has not changed. Palestinians observe May 15th, that's what I thought, as Nakba Day, commemorating the war's events one day after Israel's Independence Day. In 1967, following the Six-Day War, another series of Palestinian exodus occurred. This came to be known as the Nakba, and also has its own day, or the Naksa, its own day, June 5th. The Nakba has greatly influenced Palestinian culture and is a foundational symbol of the current Palestinian national identity, together with the political cartoon character Handala, the Palestinian Kifya, and the Palestinian 1948 Keys. Many books, songs, and poems have been written about the Nakba. Wow. Sorry. Shit's so scary.
So we don't have any tornado or flood warnings?
You just missed that. I was looking at the top of the screen. I blocked out the 95% of the bottom. You don't care. The WHO was established on April 7th, 1948. So May 15th, 1948 is when they took over Palestine. A month earlier, the World Health Organization was established and formally began its work on September 1st, 1948. It incorporated the assets, personnel, and duties of the League of Nations Health Organization and the Paris-based Office International de Hygiene Publique, including the International Classification of Diseases, ICD. The agency's work began in earnest in 1951 after a significant infusion of financial and technical resources. Man, it's nice. $6.83 billion budget in 2024-25. So who does this belong to? It sounds like it's a private company. But like it gets the whole idea of the League of Nations Health Organization, the Office International Hygiene du Public, and the International Classification of Diseases. Why? Do you know how much money is spent on this shit? I was just thinking about that, looking at them grading the grounds in between with their tractors and their grading. Do you know how much money is spent on this? What is this? How does anybody watch this and be entertained by this? Sorry, it just totally fucking, it's so fucking stupid. Those poor fucking animals. Anytime an animal is used in anything like this, it's fucking wrong. That animal doesn't want to be there.
Well, a lot of those horses love to jump.
Right.
But
not then.
on cue,
Right, not
all the time.
right.
One thing
And they don't get to decide not to. It'd be one thing if they got to pick whether they felt like doing it that day.
Oh, there's plenty of times where they're like, nope, not doing it, and they stop.
Right, but they get in trouble for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the WHO's official mandate is to promote health and safety while helping the vulnerable worldwide. It's sort of similar to the WEF. It provides technical assistance to countries, sets international health standards, collects data on global health issues, and serves as a forum for scientific or policy discussions related to health. Again, why? Like, how? We don't elect this organization. We don't elect its members. We don't even know anything about how it works. It's really strange that it's like there's this agency that exists in this neutral country. Its headquarters is in the neutral country, and it decides all of these different things. Sets international health standards? That's pretty crazy. You would think the thing that sets the international health standards, the people would have something to do with it, right? We have zero say. Its official publication, the World Health Report, assessments of worldwide health topics. The WHO has played a leading role in several public health achievements, and most notably the eradication of smallpox, the near eradication of polio, and the development of an Ebola shot. So, I'm going to have to break here because I have to go into smallpox. I promise you, smallpox will be associated with vaccines. It just will be. Smallpox is an infectious disease caused by variola virus, often called smallpox virus, which belongs to the genus orthopox virus. The last naturally occurring case was diagnosed in October 1977, and the World Health Organization certified the global eradication of the disease in 1980, making smallpox the only human disease to have been eradicated to date. Jesus. Yikes. Look at that.
What is that, smallpox?
Yeah. That is awful. Symptoms: fever, vomiting, mouth sores. Later, that's early. Later, fluid-filled blisters which scab over. Complications: scarring of the skin and blindness. Usual onset: 1 to 3 weeks following exposure. Duration: about 4 weeks. Causes: variola minor virus, variola major virus, spread between people. Based on symptoms, diagnostic method, based on symptoms and confirmation by PCR. Differential diagnosis: chickenpox, impetigo, molluscum contagiosum, and mpox. You know what's funny? We all here, we sit here and complain because chickenpox doesn't exist anymore, right? And that there's no chickenpox parties and shit like that. Well, were chickenpox parties a thing back in the 1500s? When did chickenpox first sort of appear? And I wonder if chickenpox is yet another thing that was associated with vaccines, and because they've changed recipes or whatever, that's why we don't see it anymore.
When Mom was a kid, we talked about this. When Mom was a kid, measles and mumps were more prevalent, but chickenpox was still a big thing. And then by the time she had us,
Our
measles and
generation
mumps was
gone.
really not gone, but
It was gone.
when I was young, it was still there. Just
Well, yeah,
not
you're half a
common.
generation older than you're half a generation older than me.
But now, okay, so then before we had kids, like the kids before we had kids, the ones that are 20 now,
Now it's autism.
they didn't have measles or mumps, and now kids like that are young now are seeing measles but not mumps. Rosella is not a thing at all. It was when Mom was young. Rosella was big. It was very rare when I was a baby, and afterwards, Rosella doesn't even, nobody talks about it. But you still get vaccinated for it. MMR, measles, mumps, Rosella. That's what the R is.
Right.
It's crazy.
And the craziest thing is, like, measles and mumps and shit, these are week-long, 3-week-long irritations.
I mean, mumps.
Mumps can be bad, but you have to be bad to begin with. You have to have that weak
Like
constitution to begin with.
They didn't die of COVID.
Right.
They died of the other shit that they had that COVID exasperated and their body couldn't handle.
So we don't know. We don't know. But I'd be willing to bet that a lot of these things only sort of exist in the late 1800s and on. And as they're sort of testing and trying new things that they're
Chemicals on us, yes.
right, that they're giving us as through the
Radicals bombarding our bodies.
not just that, through the all the different programs. Like, we forget how the inoculation programs used to exist.
Oh, yeah.
They used to do it at the school. They would have it, set up at the school. The kids would go to lunch or whatever and then come in and they'd all and they'd spread all that material between us. Like,
What did Michael Griffin, his mom was part of the group of pregnant black women that they tested that on.
that shit's crazy. The whatever.
How did I forget it? I remembered it all these years.
Monoxafil or whatever it's called. Whatever. I don't want to. I'm not trying to go in any sort of political. I'm not. It's weird. It's like I'm not saying I'm not trying to go in any sort of conspiracy directions, and we're really not. We're literally talking about facts. But I want to stick to reading this specific thing. And I went into smallpox, and I need to go back, but I just want to see something. Classification, history. Wow, history is way at the bottom. The earliest credible clinical evidence of smallpox is found in the descriptions of smallpox-like disease in the medieval writings from ancient India as early as 1500 BCE and China 1122 BCE, as well as a study of the Egyptian mummy of Ramses V, who died more than 3,000 years ago, 1145 BCE. It has been speculated that Egyptian traders brought smallpox to India during the first millennium BCE, where it remained as an endemic human disease for at least 2,000 years. Smallpox was probably introduced into China during the 1st century CE from the southwest, and in the 6th century was carried from China to Japan. In Japan, the epidemic of 735 to 737 is believed to have killed as much as 1/3 of the population. At least 7 religious deities have been specifically dedicated to smallpox, such as the god in the Yoruba region in West Africa. In India, the Hindu goddess of smallpox, Shitala, was worshipped in temples throughout the country. A different viewpoint is that smallpox emerged in 1588 CE, and earlier reported cases were incorrectly identified as smallpox. I knew I should have stopped reading. I knew I should have said beforehand, wait, watch. They're gonna talk about this BCE bullshit. They'll have a couple of stories from like early hundreds, and then it'll just sort of yada yada and it'll reappear. There won't be any cases, and then it'll just sort of, but we'll see. So 1588 CE. The timing of the arrival of smallpox in Europe and Southwest Asia is less clear. Smallpox is not clearly described in either the Old or New Testaments of the Bible or in the literature of Greeks or Romans, which some have identified. While some have identified the plague of Athens, which was said to have originated in Ethiopia and Egypt, or the plague that lifted Carthage's 396 BCE siege of Syracuse, that lifted with smallpox, many scholars agree it is very unlikely such a serious disease as variola major would have escaped being described by Hippocrates. What's Hippocrates? How's that? Hippocrates. There it is. If
watching you go through that was so cute.
If it had existed in the Mediterranean region during his lifetime, while the Antonine plague that swept through the Roman Empire in 165 through 180 CE may have been caused by smallpox, Saint Nicasius of Rheims became the patron saint of smallpox victims for having supposedly survived a bout in 450, and Saint Gregory of Tours recorded a smaller outbreak in France and Italy in 580, the first use of the term variola. Other historians speculate that Arab armies first carried smallpox from Africa to southwest Europe during the 7th and 8th centuries. In the 9th century, the Persian physician Rhazes provided one of the most definitive descriptions of smallpox and was the first to differentiate smallpox from measles and chickenpox. So these existed back then in the Kitab, or so we're told. Because again, if this shit is happening in the 9th century, then why is it another school of thought is that it happened in 1588? We we're told that they knew so much. But during the Middle Ages, several smallpox outbreaks occurred. However, smallpox had not become established there until the population growth and mobility marked by the Crusades allowed it to do so. By the 16th century, smallpox had become entrenched across most of Europe, where it had a mortality rate as high as 30%. This epidemic occurrence of smallpox in Europe is of particular historical importance as successive exploration and colonization by Europeans tended to spread the disease to other nations. By the 16th century, smallpox had become a predominant cause of morbidity. Morbidity and mortality throughout much of the world. There were no credible descriptions of smallpox-like disease in the Americas before the westward exploration by Europeans in the 5th century CE. Smallpox was introduced into the Caribbean island of Hispaniola in 1507 and into the mainland in 1520 when Spanish settlers from Hispaniola arrived in Mexico, inadvertently carrying smallpox with them. Because the Native American Amerindian population had no acquired immunity to this new disease, their peoples were decimated by epidemics. Such disruption and population loss were an important factor in the Spanish achieving conquest of the Aztecs and Incas. Similarly, English settlement of the east coast of North America in 1633 in Plymouth, Massachusetts, was accompanied by devastating outbreaks of smallpox among Native American populations and subsequently among the native-born colonists. Case fatality rates during outbreaks in Native American populations were as high as 90%. Smallpox was introduced into Australia in 1789 and again in 1829. Though, though colonial surgeons who by 1829 were attempting to distinguish smallpox and chickenpox, between smallpox and chickenpox, which could be almost equally fatal to Aborigines, were divided as whether the 1829 and 1830 epidemic was chickenpox or smallpox. Although smallpox was never endemic on the continent, it has been described as the principal cause of death in Aboriginal populations between 1780 and 1870. Wow. But see, again, so much of this is just, at the end of the day, you just have to believe a narrative that to me asks more questions than anything. You know, you're talking about people participating in germ warfare before they knew what germs were, supposedly. Okay, let's go back to this. The near eradication of polio and its current we're back to the WHO. Its current priorities include communicable diseases such as HIV/AIDS, Ebola, malaria, and tuberculosis, non-communicable diseases such as heart disease and cancer, healthy diet, nutrition, and food security, occupational health, and substance abuse. The agency advocates for universal health care coverage, engagement with the monitoring of public health risks, coordinating responses to health emergencies, and promoting health and well-being generally. The WHO is governed by the World Health Assembly, which is composed of its 194 member states. The WHO elects and advises an executive board made up of 34 health specialists, selects the WHO's chief administrator, and the chief administrator, the director general, currently Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus of Ethiopia. Nobody's going to say that shit easily. Sets goals and priorities and approves the budget and activities. The WHO is funded primarily by contributions from member states, both addressed and voluntarily. Followed by private donors, its total approved budget for 2020-21 is over 7.2 billion, while the approved budget for 2023 is over 6.2 billion. The budget is 6.83 billion for 2024-2025. Now, I should continue reading the smallpox stuff. Because, again, I'm sure there are, I had just gotten to the point where we had gotten to 1870 with the Aboriginals. And I would imagine the story starts changing.
The thing is, there's all these little plugs for you to follow different rabbit holes on.
Exactly.
Oh, let's put this in here, see if they'll bite on this one and just stop reading this.
The International Sanitary Conference. International Sanitary Conferences, the first of which was held on June 23rd, 1851, were a series of conferences that took place until 1938 for about 87 years. I think about, okay, it's 1851. How are they organizing conferences that include guests from all over the world? I mean, we accept it like it makes sense. But how are they communicating? Can you imagine how long it would take the letter to the invitation to go out to all the people, then them to accept said invitation and send that back to the people, holding the event? That in itself is an undertaking back then.
Yeah, and mail did not go by plane.
Right. There was no no like mail carrier driving around picking it up, put it in your mailbox, and somebody came and took it. You would have to get your happy ass, I guess, to the post office. I mean, I don't even know. Like, right? But think about, like, okay, so how did the post office work? How many post office were there in each region? How many miles did each post office service?
Each town had their own little postal office.
I get that, but I'm just saying.
The horse and buggy would go from town to town and pick it up. But see, then again, their worlds were a lot smaller, so they weren't writing people that were, you know,
No,
in
no,
New York and they were California.
yeah, of course they were. When we're talking about the international sanitary conferences, the name in itself, it's international. So that
So they
includes,
took it to the shipyard, and the mail got shipped and sailed across the sea and went to the other countries.
and then was
On a
taken
horse and
a horse and buggy to the
back to
separate
the-
post office, where
and
and
then
then somebody
sorted.
had to come and get it. Like, come on, do you know how many months we're talking about?
That's
there?
an incredible. Okay, so I ordered something from Colombia,
Right,
and it's just a painting, and
and
it
cigars.
got stuck. No, it got stuck at Colombia's customs for like 15 days, and then it got sent over by plane and all the high-tech shit to U.S. Customs in Miami, where it has now been for 4 more days.
The little one's beating the big one's ass. That's
He mailed it to me June 5th. Like,
It's 2024.
yeah. I
We
still
have
don't
planes,
have it.
trains, and automobiles.
It's still in Miami.
And
People walk from Colombia to Miami faster.
huh?
Didn't immigrants walk from Colombia to Miami faster?
All the walking that we're told people used to do is just, it's like they make fun of us. What was I reading the other day, yesterday or the day, where they was saying that, oh, the Hatfield guy, you know, after the rains and the flood-soaked plane, after miles into town so he could get payment for his, you know, his he walked 60 miles. How long did that take?
How long does it take the marathon running? Like 30 miles or whatever they run.
I guess, but I
It
mean,
takes hours, right? And that's running at full speed and training to do so.
what,
So
this guy did it when we had horse and buggies. We had cars. Why would he walk 60 miles? I guess he was walking through the flood destroyed area. So not only is he walking 60 miles, it's destroyed flood area. That makes sense.
maybe he hitchhiked. I don't know.
The first conference in Paris, which was almost solely concerned with cholera, which would remain the disease of major concern for the ISC for most of the 19th century. Not because they fixed it, because we cleaned up. Because for that time frame, for some reason, the people that were capable of building the most spectacular buildings that still exist today had no concept of plumbing and what to do with their shit. So they had these amazing buildings with shit on the side of the roads, running down the side of the, because people would just dump their chamber pots and shit. Because, you know, they'd be deep inside in the middle of a building. Like, I think it's so funny when you see these giant buildings and you think, okay, imagine how dark it was on, say, the 3rd floor in the middle of the building. And they didn't have any lights, huh? They were just candles and lamps and shit. They were able to build all that. Why is she there? You're the volleyball. This is, what? How did you get to be in the volleyball conversation? That is strange. She must be really good. She must have a really good mind for the game. With the cause, origin, and communicability epidemic diseases still uncertain, and a matter of scientific argument, international agreement on appropriate measures was difficult to reach. 7 of these international conferences, spanning 41 years, were convened before any resulted in a multi-state international agreement. The 7th conference in Venice, which again, Venice is one of those places that we just sort of accept. Venice literally just makes it makes no fucking sense. We should really read about Venice. I'm surprised there's all these Tartaria people out there, and like they talk about all kinds of shit. They talk about star forts and stuff like that, but nobody ever talks about Venice. Just as a city itself, Venice is don't make no sense to the extreme. And nobody fucking talks about it. I think somebody could do an entire series, an entire YouTube page dedicated to just Venice and get nowhere. Venice makes no sense. To think that anybody was capable of building, to think that we are capable of building Venice to this day. You know, it doesn't make any sense. Even the building, even that land remember, like the Arabs were trying to the what was it, the UAE, I think, was trying to build that series of islands shaped like, you know, the world and whatever it was, and they weren't able to. The funding ran out. Blah 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 blah. But to this day, like, that shit is not, like, it's being swallowed up quickly by the ocean. So to think it's not like there's all these measures that go into keeping Venice alive. It just exists. We don't talk about it. Why don't we talk about Venice? Anyway, we'll have to come back to Venice. The 7th conference in Venice in 1892 finally resulted in a convention. It was concerned only with the sanitary control of shipping traversing the Suez Canal, and was an effort to guard against importation of cholera. I do think it's funny because I'm just remembering when the trolls came on my feed one day and kept telling me to try to, that the Ben Gurion Canal thing is going to be all in the papers and blah 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 blah. It just made me think of that. Didn't happen. I do think the Ben Gurion Canal is a big fucking deal, and I appreciate the heads up on it, but it definitely didn't work out the way they said it did. If that would have worked out, that would have told me something. Something else is going on. I think it was weird that they did try to get in Gurion Canal. Like, it's not like that's something anybody is talking about and should be. Just seems strange. This whole thing is strange. This whole journey is strange. Jesus, you scared me. I didn't think you were here. I thought you left. Huh? What?
I need one more thing before I go. Wow. Maybe I need a sweater.
You just now leaving here? Be gone all fucking day.
No, I'm not going to meditate. I'm dropping off a blood. She stood up for 2 days. Duncan's really sick. So I made a blood for Duncan and dropped off my.
Yep. Must be quickie day. Uh, 5 years later, the bubonic plague was signed by 16 of the 19 states attending the Venice Conference. While Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and the U.S. did not sign this convention, it was unanimously agreed that the work of the prior conferences should be codified for implementation. Subsequent conferences from 1902 until the final one in 1938. Again, it ended just before, all of us got here. Widened the disease of concern for the ISC and included discussions of response to yellow fever, brucellosis, leprosy, tuberculosis, and typhoid.
Whoa. That wasn't good.
In part, as a result of the success of the conferences, the Pan American Sanitary Bureau 1902 and the Office International de Hygiene Publique 1907 were soon founded. Sanitary Bureau was 1902. I don't know if I said that. When the League of Nations was formed in 1920, it established the Health Organization of the League of Nations. After the United Nations absorbed all the other organizations to form the WHO. During 1945, United Nations conferences on international organization, Zeming Zies, a delegate from China, conferred with Norwegian and Brazilian delegates on creating an international health organization under the auspices of the new United Nations. After failing to get a resolution passed on the subject, Alger Hiss, the Secretary General of the conference, recommended using a declaration to establish such an organization. Z's, it's SZE, so I don't know how you say that. Z and other delegates lobbied, and a declaration passed calling for an international conference on health. The use of the word world rather than international emphasized the true global nature of what the organization was seeking to achieve. The Constitution of the World Health Organization was signed by all 51 countries of the United Nations and by 10 other countries on July 22, 1946. It thus became the first specialized agency of the United Nations to which every member subscribed. Its constitution formally came into force on the first World Health Day on April 7, 1948, when it was ratified by the 26th member state. The WHO formally began its work in September 1st. 1948. The first meeting of the World Health Assembly finished on the 24th of July, 1948, having secured a budget of $5 million for the 1949 year. I don't get it. For what? G. Brooke Chisholm was appointed Director General of the WHO, having served as Executive Secretary for a founding member during the planning stages, while Andrea was the Assembly's first president. Were to control the spread of malaria, tuberculosis, and sexually transmitted infections, and to improve marital and child health, nutrition, and environmental hygiene. Its first legislative act was concerning the compilation of accurate statistics on the spread of morbidity in disease. The logo of the World Health Organization features the rod of Asclepius as a symbol for healing. Oh, this is just a bunch of shit. In 1959, the WHO signed agreement WHA 12-40 with the International Atomic Energy Agency, which says, whenever either organization proposes to initiate a program or activity on the subject in which the other organization has or may have a substantial interest, the first party shall consult the other with a view to adjusting the matter by mutual agreement. That's strange. Wonder why those two are are synonymous like that. The nature of this statement has led some groups and activists, including Women in Europe for a Common Future, to claim the WHO is restricted in its ability to investigate the effects on human health and of radiation caused by the use of nuclear power and the continuing effects of nuclear diseases in Chernobyl and Fukushima. I mean, that's sort of what I thought when I heard it. Like, why would the health organization be associated with the atomic energy people and give each other the power to scrutinize or change policy or whatever, and do like, which basically means like, I mean, I can't imagine the atomic energy or whatever, the International Atomic Energy Agency. I can't imagine they call up the WHO every time they want to, do something that has to do with fucking atomic energy. They believe WHO must regain what they see as independence. Independent WHO held a weekly vigil from 2007 to 2017 in front of the WHO headquarters. However, as pointed out by Foreman, in Clause 2, it states, in particular, and in accordance with the Constitution of the World Health Organization and the Statute of the International Atomic Energy Agency, it is an agreement with the United Nations, together with the exchange of letters related thereto, and taking into account the respective coordinating responsibilities of both organizations, it is recognized by the World Health Organization that the International Atomic Energy Agency has a primary responsibility for encouraging, assisting, and coordinating research and development and practical application of atomic energy for peaceful uses throughout the world without prejudice to the right of the World Health Organization to concern itself with promoting, developing, assisting, and coordinating international health work, including research in all its aspects. What? Like, that really doesn't, like them saying that, oh, well, yeah, they're still allowed to research whatever they want. Like, it still doesn't answer the question as to, I mean, if you're saying that they give each other the power to adjust, it's really weird. So I was watching the Olympics yesterday, and yesterday they only showed pro Kamala Harris commercials. And now today I've only seen negative commercials. It's kind of weird. Oh, this is a pro Kamala Harris out there. I'm wrong again. But I think again, why the World Health Organization shouldn't, like, it shouldn't be that way. Like, why would they have any sort of veto power or any sort of effect on either thing? And you can't say that they don't if they've signed an agreement that says they do. So because you release a statement saying, well, they're allowed to do whatever they want, we're not saying that they're not. Oh, here comes the other side of it. I can't. Open border. The open border. Overwhelmed. Notice how they don't actually show any footage? Where is, I mean, if the only thing that they seem to have right now is that the borders are being overrun, like this racist idea that the borders are being overrun. Look at this. Nobody's fucking there. Oh, that's COVID. That was the COVID time. All these idiots with masks on. Oh, it's so stupid. The key text is highlighted in bold. The agreement in Clause 2 states that the WHO is free to perform any health-related work. That's not what's said. They're free to do whatever they want, right? But that doesn't mean that they can't, that they can't be affected or corrupted by. Operational history. 1947, the WHO established the epidemiological information service via telex. 1949, the Soviet Union and its constituent republics quit the WHO over the organization's unwillingness to share the penicillin recipe. They would not return until 56. It seems weird that an organization that's goal is world health is going to hold a recipe for penicillin hostage when, you can't have world health without everybody being on the same page. But then again, I just think, I just wonder, I wonder how much of it is real. How much of it's real, how much of it is manipulation. Because I think that's exactly what it is. I just think I think we're fools. We're fools anyway. 1950, a mass tuberculosis inoculation drive using the BCG vax gets underway. 1955, the malaria eradication program was launched. Although objectives were later modified, in most areas the program goals became control instead of eradication. That seems weird. Is it that eradication is impossible? I definitely don't not think that they can do. I wonder what the reality of natural disease is compared to, I'm sorry, getting distracted by this shit. I don't know. I wonder what the significance is, the legitimacy of real versus created is. How many countries or whatever, people, look at that big old chemtrail. Oh my God. The high jumped the chemtrail. Have you seen this commercial? The high jumped the chemtrail. Get the fuck out of here. Okay, I'm not reading all this. I do want to read Venice. I do want to find out about Venice, but I'm not going to do that now. I really want to read this, so I'm going to. Venice. Oh, let's do this.